Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mark.
How you doing?
Hey there.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey,
guys.
everybody.
Pull that screen down a little bit. Move up. Yep. So
Let me see.
thanks. Yeah, TV.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Cool. Yeah. I'm just getting the sunset here. I should probably like kind of shimmy. There, wait. That can you see me better now? I got sunshine on my shoulder.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Sounds like a song.
Sunshine on my shoulder. How's everybody doing? Well, you got wine. Yeah, there's John. How you doing? Welcome back.
Good, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Everybody's pre-gaming. I had a couple of sips of these wines ahead of time too, and man, oh man.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm a little buzzed. Only
Well,
Which one
not.
should we pour first?
We're going to start with the Peake Ranch. So we're going. My favorite way to go is young to old, because that's basically how we go in life too. So let
And
me
then back.
see. We have 8 participants. I think we have 13 people tonight. So I'm going to hang in there and wait for a couple more. And I'm also going to check my emails because I know some people have technical issues. Like this one guy, Derek, who joins us. He's 3 or 4 times he's had problems with the emails. So I want to make sure everybody's getting in here. So hopefully you guys are starting to notice the change in seasons around your way. And I'm kind of on the cusp here. It's a chilly 55 outside right now, but I got my patio heater on here, which makes it perfect.
We were in Tucson for like a long weekend last weekend, and it was 100 on Friday.
Whoa, that's a little much. I don't know. How did you feel about that?
It was okay. I
It
mean,
was
it's
hot.
hot. And, even though it's dry, 100's hot.
Yeah, and we had snow here in the mountains a couple days ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Which
My
mountains?
mom
In North Carolina.
Okay.
and yeah, my mom lives up in close to the Poconos, and they had snow too. So it was a little bit of a weird week. All right, we got a couple more people coming in, and I trust you all have your bottles open. You've been to these tastings before, so you know how we do here. Yeah, John, I see the look on your face. Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost out of wine, Mark. We don't have a whole lot left.
Oh man. Yeah, and these are wines that you want to have. You want more of this. Cool. Hi
So
guys.
while you wait for the rest of the people to join, I just want to tell you that Brian really liked the recipe that you sent, and I want to commend him for the hour that he must have spent grinding all of this pepper, which now has my mouth aflame.
Oh no.
Very
So
peppery.
so yeah, well, not my recipe technically, but it's a traditional Tuscan dish called
It goes
peposo.
very well with this wine.
Yeah, yeah, that pepper is going to be outstanding with a nice spicy Syrah like this. Um, and these are similar in profile, so it should work with both of them too. But yeah, that peposo is that can be. You don't really think of black pepper as being hot, but it can be in the right dose. But I'm glad you made it. How long did you let it simmer, or how long did you let it braise?
We actually crock potted it, so I did it for about 6.5 hours in a crock pot.
Wow. Yeah, so that's going to be nice and tender.
Oh yeah, it is very good.
It is, but it's not falling apart, just like the recipe said. It's tender.
Yeah.
It's got a nice sauce, but it's still, the meat is not, mush.
And what did you use, Chuck?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
and a Pinot
Cool.
Noir, a young Aldi's Pinot Noir.
A $10 Pinot Noir from Aldi.
Yeah, that's the way you want to go when you're cooking like that. You don't want to spend a lot of money, and you don't want to go oaky. You want to keep the oak out of the wine.
Yep.
Cool. All right. We've got the majority of the group here, so I'm going to get started, and we'll let the others in as they come along. Oh, good, Derek, you made it. Glad the link worked. We'll have to figure out what that is. What's going on for you guys? I don't know if it's like maybe going into your spam folder. Sometimes, like when you send out emails from a service like I do, I use Ticket Spice for my ticketing. That may be getting flagged in your email client and being sent to spam. So after you're done here, maybe check your spam and see if these are going in there. Because they're all automated. The rest of you guys, are you getting like the initial email when you sign up, letting you know where to buy the wines and also providing the link? And then about a week beforehand, I send another one out that gives you the link and the recipes. Are you all getting those?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, Derek is not. So yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Want to make sure everybody gets these, but we are recording these now too. So moving forward, there will be a recording of all these for those who can't make it. I know that Dan and Georgianne Muchnock, who are at these tastings quite a bit, they bought the wines. He emailed me. He said he wants to watch the video afterwards. So after we're done here, I'll send everybody a link with the videos so you can go back and watch it if you want to, or you can share it with your friends. Cool. So yeah, everybody's here. There's Rob. Hey guys.
Hello. We're having a technically challenged moment. My computer decided to do an update halfway through, so we had to grab the iPad.
Oh no. Was it Zoom that was updating?
No, my computer.
Zoom. I got a little scary yesterday. Zoom was down nationwide. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but there were a lot of happy employees out there who didn't have to go to meetings for the day. But I was trying to do some things with Zoom to get ready for this one, and it wasn't working. So I just did a quick search on Google, and it said Zoom was down nationwide yesterday.
Our entire office phone system runs through Zoom, and it was a very quiet workday.
Oh, did you know that was happening?
Yes, we got an email from our IT guy saying that there was an issue with Zoom.
Okay.
But it was nice to be able to work without phone calls.
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom class at 10 Mountain Time, and it worked okay.
Yeah, I think it was after that. It was sometime in the afternoon that everything went down. Okay, cool. Let's there may be one or two more people joining us. I'm losing count here, but welcome, and it's good to see you all guys again. And we continue on with these tastings, and I'm glad that we can keep going with these. And these are, once again, to reiterate, I know we've kind of gone over this ground already, but these are not WTSO tastings. These are Marc Supsic tastings. So in the past couple of months, I don't want to say we've stopped working together, but we are not exclusive partners anymore like we used to be. So I enjoy WTSO's wines. I enjoy the service and the fact that their shipping is free. So they're useful for the wines, but we're not exclusive partners anymore at this point. So, if you have questions about them, it's not really my job to field those anymore. You see that Ed Michalek is on here from time to time. He works with those guys. I've asked him to kind of it's not really a sales pitch for WTSO at this point. So if you guys have questions, you can ask him if he's on here. You don't have to feel uncomfortable about talking about it or anything like that, but these are not WTSO tastings, just to be clear. So I would also really appreciate moving forward if you like doing these and you like this group, to share it with other friends who might want to join us too, because I have a much smaller audience and I don't have as large a mailing list as WTSO did, so I have a hard time reaching people. So if you know of anybody else we can pull in and who would enjoy these. I'm trying to kind of expand and grow them, change a couple of things. I got a last minute contact from the people at Donelan today. And I almost thought about inviting them to come on and join us for the call. I don't know if that's something that would interest you in the future, maybe talking to the winemakers or the wineries. Is that something you would be interested in?
Yeah,
Yeah, we liked it when
Sure.
you did Luca.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay
Yeah.
with me.
Okay, cool. So in the future, moving forward, I'll do that.
We missed that opportunity since lockdown because there's just not the same atmosphere at the wineries that you visit. Whereas, before it was kind of, the winemaker would come and talk about process and the thoughts behind what they'd
Yeah.
done. And it's become more, here's your flight. See you later.
Hey, Sue, how you doing?
Hi there.
So yeah, good. We'll try to do that moving forward. And just trying to find ways to keep these interesting and to keep changing them in ways that are useful to you guys and hopefully just fun too. So without further ado, let's move on. And yeah, Laura Cannon was really good on the previous tastings. She's very personable and very easy to understand, and she, uh, I guess because she's a doctor and she's used to dealing with people, she has a great bedside manner, and she's good at talking to people. She's good at teaching, which I really appreciate. Because sometimes every once in a while you get a guest on or a winemaker who is not. They work up in their head, but they're not necessarily good talking to people, and that can make for a very long seminar. We've had a couple of those on. When we did WTSO, we had a couple of winemakers on that were not as engaging as Dr. Catena. Cool. So I want to start with just a little poll real quick, and this is an easy one. I want to gauge what the familiarity is with the Syrah grape here. So if you guys don't mind participating, I just want to see how familiar you are with the grape. I'm assuming most of you in the group have had it before, but we may have one or two people who have not. And if you have any questions tonight, these are always open forum. It's a small enough group. It's very intimate, so you can speak directly to me, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions and just shoot the breeze like we're doing right now. Okay, so it looks like we had very much a somewhat. So most of you guys are very familiar with the grape and the wine. And I want to encourage you guys to talk to each other through the chat if you want. You don't need to involve me if you have conversations or questions that you want to kind of bounce around. Feel free to talk to each other too. All right, cool. So I kind of wanted to have a mission for this tasting, and I wanted to talk about why Syrah is not as well recognized here in the United States. When I do these tastings, I kind of have to comb through the selection that's available to me at WTSO, and I have to kind of use a matrix to put together the wines that they have on offer, and then figure out the theme. So for this one, I wanted to get some French Syrah in here, but they didn't have any available. So what I wound up with was two California Syrahs, and I thought to myself, well, this is great. We can make a theme here. Syrah, for some reason, is not as well known, and when you go to parties, you go to events, you don't really see it on the menus very often. You don't see people drinking it. You don't see people going to fundraisers and asking for a glass of Syrah. Usually they ask for a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or Pinot Noir, but never Syrah. So I thought we would kind of explore why that is. So that's why I wanted to ask you how familiar you are with it. And so moving forward, from that point, I'm going to give you guys just a couple of pieces of information. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I want to do a deck. And don't get scared. It's only 3 slides and 3 pictures. Can you all see that? Yes? Okay. Awesome. Okay. So the origins of Syrah, you guys probably know this already, but if you don't, it's from the southeast of France. So in the Rhone Valley, this is where it comes from. There's some confusion as to its origins. For a brief period of time, it was thought to be from Syracuse in Italy, Sicily, which is where they thought the name came from. Syrah, Syracuse, very close. And then for the past 15 years that I've been doing wine tastings and doing videos on YouTube, inevitably, if I talk about Syrah, there's always somebody from Iran, from the Middle East, who yells at me and they say, Shiraz is our grape. It's native to our country. It comes from ancient Persia. It belongs to us. The French stole it from us. It was once ours. The capital of Iran is known as Shiraz. The grape is named after it. I mean, what more do you want? That is not true. They're very proud of that, and they'll vehemently fight you over that. But there's a professor at UC Davis in California, and actually I was fortunate enough to do some viticultural studies under her. Her name is Dr. Carol Meredith, and she's an ampelographer. And ampelographers are like grape geneticists. So their job is to trace the genetic roots of grapes. Carol Meredith was the one who found out that Zinfandel was actually Primitivo from Italy, and also it's Krojlenak Kastelanski, which is actually a Croatian grape. So she was able to make that connection and trace it all the way back to Croatia. So she's very well celebrated in the wine industry, but she's also the one who did the ampelography on the Syrah grape and proved that it was native to Southeast France. In fact, its great-grandparents are Pinot Noir and Viognier. It's a blend of two grapes you may not know as well, called Mondouze Blanche and Dureza. And those are both native to the Rhone Valley. They cross-pollinated, and they created Syrah. So that is kind of the end of the story, and that's been the end of the story for the last 10 years since she did that project. But, to this day, people will still argue about where its origins are. And in France, it's known for making some of the best and most expensive red wines. The Rhone Valley is divided. You can't see it here, but it's divided into two regions. There's Northern Rhone and the Southern Rhone. So the Northern Rhone is the warmer region, very steep cliffs there, rocky cliffs. Everything has to be hand harvested, and it's very hot and dry there as well. There's a hot wind that blows from the north to south, known as the Mistral wind, and it's so strong it can blow at 30 or 40 miles an hour. So that they have to stake the vines individually with wooden stakes in order to prop them up so that they don't break. And I'm going to show you a picture in the next slide that shows you what that looks like. But in the Northern Rhone, there are several appellations that use the Syrah grape that are known for making some really high-end expensive wines. You probably heard these before. Côte Rôtie, Saint Joseph. Hermitage is one of the most famous. Hermitage can command several $100s a bottle and can age for up to 40 years or 50 years or more. And Cornas is another one. So if you ever see those names on a bottle of French wine, those are made with 100% Syrah, and they're some of the best in the world. Now, we're going to get into this, but one of the reasons why I theorize, and many people theorize, that Syrah kind of took a turn and did not become as famous or popular in the United States is because in 1838, it was actually taken to Australia by a gentleman by the name of James Busby, when Australia was still a penal colony at that point, and they were trying to turn it over to be just a civilian colony. So they were sending people there to establish viticulture and to establish agriculture too. They sent in 1838. They sent this gentleman James Busby, who was an Englishman, down to Australia, and he took over 600 different grape clippings with him. One of them was Syrah, and it did so well in Australia that it became pretty much their hallmark grape. So that kind of stole the thunder away from the United States, where during the gold rush era, Zinfandel and Cabernet Sauvignon were kind of taking foothold. And believe it or not, Syrah actually grows in Italy and Chile too, and Spain. Any questions? Any comments or anything you want to add to what I've talked about here? Okay, cool. So this is the Northern Rhone. And many of you are probably familiar with Guigal, the brand. It's very, very famous. Guigal is probably the most famous Northern Rhone brand out there. And this is what the vineyards look like in the Northern Rhone. Steep, rocky cliffs, have to be hand harvested. It's very warm and dry there, and very windy too. So you can see all these individual vines that are staked up, one vine per stake. So why the underdog in the United States? We talked about how it kind of was rerouted to Australia, and it took a foothold there. Um, in the gold rush era in California, Zinfandel and soon Cabernet Sauvignon after that took over and made inroads. So they became the main grapes in California. So Syrah didn't really come to California. It was there in the early 1900s, but it really didn't uh, come of age until the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. You may recognize some of these names. Joseph Phelps, obviously, he's got a very expensive wine called Insignia, but that's more of a Bordeaux blend. Cupay is located in the central coast of California. They were one of the very early pioneers of Syrah. And Bonnie Doon, which is this guy over here. This gentleman here is Randall Graham, and he was he had a winery called Bonnie Doon in the Santa Cruz region in the central coast of California. And in the 80s and 90s, he thought the climate there in the central coast of California was similar to the Rhone Valley. So he and another group, small group of winemakers dubbed themselves the Rhone Rangers, and they started to grow Rhone Valley wines, grapes. So like Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre, Cinsault, all the things that you're going to find in the Rhone Valley, they started to champion. And there was this boom in the late 90s from Bonnie Doon vineyards of Syrah. So as we were saying, Cab, Pinot Noir, and Zin were kind of already established at this point in California. So there wasn't really a need for another grape at that point. They were doing quite well, especially with Robert Mondavi kind of at the helm, championing Cabernet Sauvignon. And in the 1990s, then we had that boom. I don't know if you guys remember that if you were drinking wine at that point, but there was that sort of Australian boom where you could get Australian wine in the stores for like $5.99, $7.99. In particular, Yellowtail, which say what you will about it, it has its place in wine history. It's not my favorite, and if you taste it now, it is. It almost tastes like it's been manufactured or mass produced. It's the Yellowtail wine brand is actually owned by a winery called Casella, and Casella is one of the largest in the world. They're located in the central part of Australia, and if you ever saw the winery for Yellowtail, I mean, it looks like a factory. I mean, the tanks it's got like 100,000-gallon tanks, like 20 of them. It's crazy. So there was this boom in the 90s where we had what they called the critter labels. I don't know if you guys remember that era, where Yellowtail kind of started the trend, and then after that there was like Red Truck, Red Dog, Yellow Dog, Yellow Fish. You name it, whatever. There was all these copycats that came onto the market, kind of trying to imitate the success of Yellowtail. So I think that really kind of overshadowed California Syrah. So we had this glut of Australian Shiraz for about 10 years until people kind of really tired of it. And then there's confusion over the names Syrah and Shiraz. And we'll talk about what the difference is between those two. When the grape is grown in hot climates like California, I've seen it grown in Texas before too. Some of the hotter parts of the world, it loses its character. So it's like Cabernet Sauvignon in that it needs a balance of hot and cold, which California is perfect for. You need that diurnal swing where you have really hot days to ripen the grape and then cool nights to allow it to settle down and go dormant and retain its acidity. In the end, all of this leads to what I consider a win for wine lovers, because Syrah kind of takes a back seat to all these other wines. You can get it for a much nicer price because it's not in the spotlight. So you can find really high quality wines like these for $36, $35, $30, where you would pay $50 or more for a comparable Cabernet Sauvignon or Pinot Noir. Cool. Any questions about that? Or thoughts?
So
Well,
who's the fellow in the picture?
I'm sorry?
Who's the guy in the picture?
That is Randall Graham. He is the founder of Bonnie Doon Winery, and he just sold it actually. So he was the person who kind of started this movement called the Rhone Rangers in the 80s and the 90s. This group of winemakers that were championing these grapes that were grown in the Rhone Valley of France.
Yeah, those guys were good salesmen, or they tried to be anyway. But remember, maybe 20 years ago, maybe it's long ago that, I think of 20, The hot thing was this was going to be the next Cabernet Sauvignon. Syrah was,
Yeah,
and of course, it just never happened for the reasons, most of the reasons you're talking about here.
yeah, because Cabernet Sauvignon was already Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And people
Yeah, we
knew it.
didn't need another
People
one.
knew it.
Yeah, it's a shame, but like I said, it's to our advantage because now we get to have these great wines because they're off the radar. They're flying above the radar. So real quick, the grape itself, as I said, it likes hot, dry climates. And it's very high in anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are an antioxidant, and that's what makes the wine so deep in color. So that makes it very ageable because the anthocyanins are a preservative. They're also high in proteins too, which means that they integrate well with oak. So Syrah is one of those wines that goes well with oak, like Cabernet Sauvignon. Most often in a good Syrah, when it's young and it's fresh, you're going to taste a lot of dark fruits. Sometimes when I'm just joking around with my wife, I say this tastes like purple. Because like when you were a kid, everything that was like grapey or fruity, they used to color it purple, like candy and like gummy fruits, gummy stuff and like fruit leather. It was always purple. That's the taste of purple to me. So it's like blackberry, plum, and raspberries. And then it's known for this curious spicy note on it. And I think we're going to get that in the wines that we're drinking tonight. Black pepper and white pepper are the two descriptors that you hear most often. And it's kind of manifests itself as like a little bit of a burn at the finish. So keep your eyes out or keep your tongue out for that one tonight. And it's also usually a very savory wine too. So people will say that sometimes in more complex versions of Syrah, they're going to get olives and smoked meat. Sometimes floral, violets, African violets in particular on the nose. And you probably know this, and some of you probably love this about Syrah, but as it ages, it gets funky. So it almost gets like a gamey, meaty kind of note to it. Is anybody familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of like a funk.
Yes. Some of that, at least, and I know we're doing California, but some of those, the Northern Rhone, the Côte Rôtie in particular, has that Viognier in there, a touch of that in there.
A touch of Viognier, yes. Yes, that is permissible by law. Sometimes they'll put a little touch of that in there, but not always. Oftentimes they will.
And for that, like, how does that change it?
Viognier is a very full-bodied white wine. So people may find this interesting, but adding a white wine to a red wine, it seems counterproductive, but they actually do it in the Southern Rhone too. They add white grapes into Châteauneuf-du-Pape as well. It's permitted. There are like 3 or 4 white grapes that are permitted to be in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So it's very traditional in the Rhone, and it's added to give perfume and also a little bit of acidity to the wine. So in small doses, like 1% or 2%, it's just there to like kind of give it a little bit more of a heady nose and also give it some more acidity too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's cool that you called that out though.
Well, it's funny because I like both of those. I think we kind of touched on that last month, I should say, the Châteauneuf du Pape and the Côte d'Or, and maybe it's because of that little splash of the white. Maybe that's what it is for me. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think maybe a year or two ago, we did some blends from California with WTSO, and they were like what they called field blends, which was traditionally done in Italy, where they would grow everything in the correct proportions in the vineyard, and they would just harvest it all and chuck it all together and crush it. And then traditionally, when they did that in the old world, they often had white grapes in the mix too.
Gotcha.
Cool. Okay.
And Marc, I think as far as Viognier goes, that's on one side of the mountain in Côte Rôtie. One side of the mountain is 100% Syrah. The other side has typically, 3 to 5% of Viognier. I think I've mentioned this to you before in years past, but we used to have a bacon and Côte Rôtie party in Charlotte, North Carolina. And because there's nothing that goes better with Syrah than bacon. And so we would have everything from dessert to appetizer to main courses, all with some sort of a bacon. And people would bring coat
Everything's good with bacon, John.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. You are 100% correct. But uh, people would bring coat rotis from both sides of the mountain, as well as Syrah from California, and we would taste things that were current releases, and most of the stuff we would drink would be very well aged. So it was an incredible lesson in Syrah and food wine pairings.
So you like that kind of old, stanky, kind of like funky Syrah?
Well, you know what? At the time, I was a New World guy, and so me and a couple of my buddies would always bring the California Syrah, and others of our good friends would bring the 20-year-old plus coat roti.
Yeah.
But it was all wonderful.
Yeah, everything is better with bacon. Agreed.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Before we end here, this is it basically, but I wanted to share with you real quick. Um, this is the first winery, so we're going to be opening the Peake Ranch first today. So that is the 2020, and this is what it looks like. Peake Ranch is located in the Central Coast in the Santa Rita Hills of Santa Barbara County. So Santa Barbara, it's Central California, and it's a little hot there. But this is inland from the peninsula, and I'll show it to you on the map in a second. It's in what they call a geographical saddle, and it's actually like saddle shaped, and it protects it from the influence of the Pacific Ocean. So it actually keeps it a little bit warmer there. Keeps it from getting too cold at night. So this is higher up in elevation. This is about 800 feet above sea level. And this is Donelan. Donelan, I didn't have one specific picture. This is Cuvée Christine is interesting. A cuvée is a wine that's made from several different parcels and several different clusters of grapes. So they actually source the grapes for this wine, the Donelan, from like 4 or 5 different vineyards all over Sonoma County. So that is what makes it a cuvée. But this is one of them. This is basically what Sonoma County looks like. If you've been there before, you get those hot days and those foggy mornings and those hot days and those cold nights, which is perfect for growing grapes. Okay, we're going to stop that, and I'm going to give you a map real quick. Obviously, this is California. No introduction necessary there. And these are, you can see the distance here between where we are with each winery. So down here is San Luis Obispo region, Santa Rita Hills, and there's Peake Ranch. I've highlighted that. So you can see a couple miles away from the Pacific Ocean. It should be fairly cool here, but we have this in the Santa Rita Hills here. We have this protective saddle, as they call it. And you can see it's kind of like a saddle shape. And Peake Ranch is located in the hills inside this saddle here. So it's protected from the influence of the Pacific, and it's relatively warm. And we said that Syrah needs a warmer climate to grow. And we've covered this in prior tastings too. It's got a southeastern exposure, which is one of the best and most favorable exposures in winemaking, because when you have a southern exposure, you're going to get the most sunlight exposure during the course of the day. As the sun crosses over from east to west, you're almost always getting some level of sunlight during the course of the day. So you get a longer growing day, a longer ripening day. And then, of course, where Sonoma is. We've been here a million times. Right above San Francisco, above the San Pablo Bay. This over here, as you know, this is the Napa Valley. And this right here, this is Sonoma Valley. Believe it or not, the border for Sonoma County kind of cuts around up where Calistoga is in the northern part of the Napa Valley. So these 3 vineyards right here are where the Donelan is sourced from. And they're all in Sonoma County, even though Knights Valley up here looks like it should be in Napa Valley. It's actually part of Sonoma County. And the Russian River Valley, which is fairly famous for its Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs and sparkling wines. So a cooler location. So what they're doing with the Cuvée Crustine is they're taking different parcels that have different qualities to them. So there may be one that's a little warmer, like up here in Calistoga, it tends to be warmer because it's more landlocked. So you may have more riper berries and more ripe fruit growing there with higher alcohol content. And then over here in the Russian River Valley, where it's cooler, you're going to get grapes that retain their acidity and they're a lot more bright and fresh. So they put them all together, kind of like a recipe, and they create something that is really well balanced and meets their vision of what they want to sell to people, what they want to serve to people. Cool. Okay, that is all we're going to do with the visuals. So thank you for sitting through that. Do you have any questions before we go taste?
Marc, I hate to ask a question that is potentially, well, it is off topic. When I think of Santa Rita Hills, I think of Pinot Noir. Some of our favorite Pinots are from there. And
Yeah.
then right now you're showing Russian River Valley, which is also a wonderful place for Pinots.
For Pinot.
Yeah. So we're having an incredible Syrah tonight from the same area where we're getting incredible Pinot Noir. And typically I think of Pinot Noir growing regions equaling Chardonnay growing regions.
Yeah.
But yet we're getting this amazing Syrah from the same place. And then I see Russian River, which is so far north of where we're talking about tonight. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's all about location. So there are microclimates within every region. So generally speaking, yes, the Russian River Valley is cooler. So as we were saying with the Donelan, what they're doing is they're taking multiple parcels. So they're getting the body from one, they're getting the alcohol content from one of the parcels, they're getting the acidity from the other one, and they're putting it together to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts, I guess, but it is also kind of like you're cherry picking each of one of the qualities that you want from the wine in order to kind of like build the wine. You're not going to get that. Like if you were to grow a Syrah by itself in the Russian River Valley and bottle that, it would probably be very light, low in alcohol, and too acidic. So what they're doing is they're taking the acidity from the Russian River Valley and they're combining it with the alcohol content in the body from Knights Valley. And then they're taking a bit of fruit from Sonoma Mountain, and they're combining that in there probably for aromatics and, for flavor characteristics. And they're putting that together. Almost every winery in California has like an in-house lab at this point, and they do tasting trials. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. It's pretty intense, where they do like bottling trials, and they'll just sit there with 100 bottles in front of them, and they'll taste a little bit of this and a little bit of this from this parcel and a little bit of this from this parcel, and they put a blend together until they come up with something that they feel like represents their winery and they want to sell to people. So that's what they're doing there. But then again, down here, yes, Santa Rita Hills is known for its Pinot Noir because it's cool and it's so close to the coast. But then we were saying Peake Ranch here is kind of hidden in this protective saddle. So you have a microclimate in there, which is warmer than normal for the region. So that is how they're able to grow a grape like Syrah and get it up to that level of body and that level of alcohol content, because it's probably a good 10 degrees warmer than the rest of the coast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's microclimates are very interesting, and you may have generally speaking, it may be like cool in your neighborhood, but you may have your neighbor might have a parcel of land that's a little warmer than yours are. It's a little more elevated. It's more exposed to the sun. So you get these anomalies within these regions where it's possible to make wines like this. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised too. Santa Rita Hills, and it's a beautiful wine. I'm sure you've tasted it at this point. It's a pretty big wine.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of either one left at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry if I talked too long there. Okay, so let's taste these wines, shall we? And as you know, we are starting with the Peake Ranch, and I have no particular reason other than that it's the younger one. So it's going to be a little bit more fresh and a little more kind of I guess, fruity, and you're going to be able to taste the expression of all the flavors. And then the Cuvée Christine is, at this point, 8 years old. So we have a wine that's kind of like turning the corner into maturity. So it'll be interesting. Do you guys have this book here? Does anybody have this book here, The Wine Bible by Karen MacNeil? Karen, you have it?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're into wine kind of at the level where we're at, where we're all really kind of passionate about it, but you don't want to go full geek. This is kind of like a good in-between book. It's well written. She's very erudite and articulate, but it's an enjoyable read. So it's not too heady. It's not too over the top. It's not boring. The Wine Bible by Karen MacNeil. Karen MacNeil describes Syrah as a man wearing a tuxedo with cowboy boots. Can you guys, what do you think that means?
Uh,
A man in a tuxedo with cowboy boots.
Spunk. I don't know.
It's elegant rustic.
There you go. Classy, but grounded.
Yes. Yeah, you guys are on the right track. There's like a certain level of elegance and class to it. And it can dress up really nice and dresses up well, but at the same time, there's always this sort of like rustic, earthy element to it that never really goes away. So there's always just a little bit of a rugged edge to it. I always like that expression. A man wearing a tuxedo in cowboy boots.
Just remember, it matters how much your cowboy boots cost too.
I mean, it sounds very much like a Santa Fe
Sounds
outfit.
like a Santa Fe outfit.
Yeah.
They may be ostrich skin boots.
Exactly.
There's so many ways you can interpret that. I love that. That visualization, but it's so accurate because Syrah does, it does dress up well, and it could be, very classy and very elevated, but it never really leaves the ground. It always has its boots on the ground. So one other thing I wanted to ask you before we get started here, we were talking about the difference of Syrah and Shiraz. You guys understand the difference, and what do you think that means? What do you think the difference is between a Syrah and a Shiraz?
Isn't it just where it's grown?
Essentially, yes. But there are stylistic differences.
Well, because Shiraz, or whatever you want to call it, you think of Australia,
Mhm.
It's usually bigger, fruitier, more fruit forward, I think anyway. At least the ones that we get in here in the United States.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. So we were saying Syrah was taken to Australia in 1838 by this gentleman, James Busby. Australians, just generally speaking, are very big. Their personalities are usually very demonstrative. Everything's a little bit bigger in Australia and a little bit more, I guess, muscular, to use the word. So yes, the French Syrah, when it landed on the shores of Australia, the crates were labeled Skyras, which is the anglicized version of the word. So Scyras. And when the Australians saw it, they pronounced it Shiraz. So that was their alliteration of the word, I guess. And it became Shiraz down there. So same grape, but they do make it a little bit more powerful. There's usually a little more oak. And because it tends to be a hotter region, the alcohol content is a lot higher down there. So yes, the difference between Syrah and Shiraz is usually body oak levels and also alcohol levels too. So when you see that these wines from California are being labeled as Syrah, they're trying to tell you that this is more of the French style. Okay. Now, I know you've been drinking, but now we are going to officially drink. Now we're going to do it like classy people. So we're going to start with the Peake Ranch. And this is a 2020. So even this one has some age on it, 5 years. Now, if you guys could give me, I know some of you have been, already kind of been in the glass and sniffing it and tasting it, so you may be burnt out at this point. But if anybody can give me their first impressions on this, I'd love to hear your take on what you're smelling and tasting.
I think my taste buds are starting to recover from the pepper and dinner, and I get a lot of fruit from this one.
Okay. What
Brian
kind of
says
fruit?
sweet.
Black cherry,
Black cherry?
a
Yeah,
little bit of leather, little bit of
definitely.
leather.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that kind of gaminess in there, that leathery bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of a hint of like red licorice.
Yeah, good call, man. Yeah, there's almost like a candy, kind of like a cherry or red candy kind of.
But definitely much more fruit in it than the other.
Yes.
There
Yeah,
is
that's that sweet. That's that sweetness, that red licorice. That's that sweetness. Good call.
cool. Yeah, so you don't actually smell sweet, but what it does to your brain is it has the connotation of something sweet. So you automatically kind of taste it mentally. So when people say they smell something sweet, that's usually what's going on. There's the suggestion of something that is sweet. So yeah, you guys are on point here. This sees 100% French oak, so it's all French, but only 38% of the regime is new. We talked about this process before, so they'll age the wine in batches, and 72% of it, or am I doing my math right? No, 62% of it would be without oak, and then the other 38% of it would be in new oak. So it is getting a touch of oak, but they're not like bombing the whole thing with total new oak. Yeah, and
So
there
then
is
they mix it all together?
yes, yep,
Ah, okay.
yeah. So that way they can it's more precise control over the end result. Okay, some pepper in there as well too, just a slight hint. Nice and silky smooth. Definitely get some tannins from the oak, so it's got a bit of a
Brian
grip.
says we can't taste pepper anymore because of dinner.
What do you guys think about black or
Sorry, guys.
white? At first I thought black. Now I'm not so sure. Black pepper, that is, or white
That's
pepper.
it's one of the things I've had a hard time distinguishing the difference between. I don't know if
Yeah.
I know it. I don't know it that well. If anybody else knows the difference between black and white pepper, I think white pepper is probably
get
more.
white pepper quite a bit, and I don't get a white. It's a different.
So
this
what would
is
you
more of a
say?
black pepper.
What would you say makes distinguishes white pepper from black? Is it more perfumed or like more fragrant?
Yes.
It kind of tickles your nose more. I think.
Does it?
For me, it does. At least I know when I go to the restaurant and I have white pepper.
Yes.
Then that's kind of what I got from smelling this. A little tickle to the nose.
Cool.
A lot of recipes with seafood have white pepper in them, and it's a different, almost a nutmeggy sort of nose.
Well, I'm sure some of you guys, most of you in the group here, have been to Europe before. Have you ever noticed that like European pepper has like almost like a stinky kind of smell to it? Like it's almost like a little barnyardy or like a little gamey.
A lot of things in Europe are stinky.
Are you trying to say the people are stinky there too? No.
Maybe the French people that were riding the subway when their
Yeah,
arms are up. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. For some reason, I noticed that like pepper in Europe has more of like kind of like a funky aroma to it. This is nice.
It almost has, I don't want to call it musty, but kind of that wet cellar on the nose too. I don't know if anybody else is getting that.
I don't know.
I'm not sure how else to describe it because that doesn't sound appealing.
No, it doesn't. I hope you didn't get a bad bottle, but if you did, I know that, like
Oh, no, it's
WTS.
not that.
No,
Yeah.
No,
no.
it's not like a corked bottle that's horrible.
Okay. Yeah. I know that WTSO is usually pretty good about that. So if you do have a problem with your wine,
No, we've had corked bottles before. There's no passing that. You can't get up to your nose.
right? Yeah. No, nothing like that. Um, but I haven't had anything to eat yet either. Are you guys eating dinner?
After.
Yeah, because sometimes that'll change it a little bit.
It's certainly a big wine. Big full bodied, yummy wine.
Yeah, and I'm getting all those like purple fruits like we were talking about in there. The blackberry. There's definitely some black cherry as well.
The juicy wine.
Yeah.
That is a good way to describe it. And a lot of people will describe Syrah as being a juicy wine. I sometimes say juicy juice. I grew up with juicy juice, which came in two flavors. I think it was red and there was white. So this tastes like red juicy juice to me.
It's a little tight for me. I didn't get a whole lot. No.
When did you open it, Karen?
Oh, 5. A little later than I wanted. I got held up on a meeting.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely got some tannins on it though. There's definitely yeah. There's almost like a greenness to the tannins too. Just like a slight green. They're very sticky. So if you could pair a wine like this with any food, what do you think like your dream pairing for a wine like this would be? What would be something you would comes to mind for you?
It went great with beef stew tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we made the recipe you provided, and it was perfect.
But we did, instead of the pot roast, we did stew meat.
Listen,
We agreed. That went really well together.
yeah.
Probably the whole bottle of wine that cooked down to nothing.
Do that.
Yeah, when in doubt, use a bottle of red wine. You can't go wrong.
So Brian cheated. He saved a glass so he could try it.
Yes.
I had it with some black bean chili earlier, and I thought it tasted better with it than the cuvee.
Cool.
Yeah, we did a 50-50 burger with beef and lamb with smoked blue cheese on top. It was amazing. And initially, before we got to the food, we enjoyed the other one better. And then after about 4 or 5 hours of this being open with the food, this became the clear winner. A little more complexity, a little more food friendly, I thought. But initially, the other one was our by far favorite, but with the food, this became our favorite.
Cool. So was that based on my suggestion, or did you guys just did the 50-50 on your own?
It was 100% your suggestion. And
okay.
so,
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
50-50 on the grill,
Mhm.
added this. And I'd never had smoked blue cheese before, but let me tell you, that'll change your world.
It's like the bacon of cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds awesome to me. That's one of the reasons why I suggested it when I do my wine groups together, in live groups together. Sometimes I'll do the 50-50 meatballs for people. The blue cheese is a little polarizing, and so is the lamb for some. But I love lamb, and I think the gamier the better. Goat cheese goes well with wines like this as well too. So if you can get anything with a little bit of that funk on it, it's going to go well with a Syrah.
And don't forget the bacon.
You can't go wrong with bacon. If you put the bacon on top of those burgers, it would be even better. I guarantee it. Awesome.
We haven't eaten yet, but we have bacon cheeseburgers after this. So looking forward to that.
Oh God, you guys, that'll be awesome too. And when I say sometimes when you don't feel like thinking too much and you just want to go simple, you almost can't go wrong with like a nice sausage lovers like pepperoni pizza too, with Syrah. Yeah. Just the spiciness in like the pepperoni and like cured sausages is amazing with that pepperiness and Syrah too. Yeah, what's the Italian sausage that has pepper on the outside of it? It's coated in like pepper. Is that's not soppressata, is it? I'm not too well versed on my Italian sausages, but there's the one that has like kind of pepper on the outside. That's perfect with this.
Any kind of pork and Syrah is the marriage.
Yeah. I would go grilled too, so you can get a little char on there. You got to get some of that
I
smoke.
think that with Pinot Noir too. Pork and Pinot Noir are just
Agreed.
perfect together.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Nice pork loin or pork roast when it comes to Pinot Noir. Also duck too. I mean, duck pairs with almost any red wine. Duck breast, nice and fatty. Sometimes you can even do like duck bacon. I've seen before. Best of both worlds. Cool. So let's move to Donelan. If you guys don't have any further questions or comments about that one, because I think this one is even better, in my opinion.
I tell you, I kind of got cigarette butt at first when I smelled it, and I don't smoke or have cigarette butts around. So, that must go with that whole tobacco theme for this. But I felt like cigarette butts, like I'm
on the Donelan, on the second one.
It does have a little tobacco on the nose. I wouldn't call it cigarette butt because that sounds like horrible ashtray.
I know.
But I do get the tobacco.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So the whole tobacco thing must be real because that's what I got.
Yeah. Are you? Would you say like sweet tobacco, like pipe tobacco, or no? Just it was like a cigarette, huh?
No.
No.
Well, I don't know what a pipe it smells like either, but
okay.
No, pipe tobacco is like very.
Tobacco.
Yeah, pipe tobacco has kind of like a sweetness to it almost. And they used to sell it. They still do, I think, flavored. So you used to be able to buy cherry flavored pipe tobacco.
Right.
This to me has kind of like
you
that.
Mentioned it definitely has a sweet connotation.
There's definitely like really kind of like a round, like kind of berry, like a cherry, almost like a cherry cough drop.
Marc, I would call it kind of a little bit of I don't know, the little bit of funk you were talking about earlier with a little bit of the leather more.
Yeah, this one has a definite muskiness to it. If you have like a fox in your neighborhood or like an animal, some people who own ferrets, like I've smelled that kind of musk before. There's like almost like an animal musk on this. Interesting. So this vintage, for those of you who know your California wines, 2016 was like probably one of the most perfect vintages. They had 4 years of drought, and this 2017 was kind of coming out of those 4 years of drought. And I think they had a cold, wet winter, and then they had a really hot harvest season. So they ended up harvesting like 2 weeks early. So the alcohol levels got boosted up really high on these wines. I think this is 14 and a half. What is it? 14.4. So yeah, it's a little up there. But it led to an early vintage. It's made from 100% Syrah. And I think they use malolactic fermentation in this. For those of you who don't know what malolactic fermentation is, it's when they use bacteria to change the acidity in the wine. So they inoculate the wine with a specific type of bacteria that eats the malic acid in the wine, and it changes it to lactic acid and makes it taste more smooth and round. A little buttery too. So a lot of times when you have malic acid or malolactic acid reactions in red wines, you get like kind of like almost like a butterscotch kind of nose or flavor to it. And this is 22 months in 43% oak. So this is going to be a little more oak.
For me, this one's more elegant.
Yes.
And it's not old world, but it's in the direction of old world as compared to the other one, I think.
Yes.
Less acid, more restrained. I'm not sure it's more complex, but it's They're both really yummy wines.
It's got like a dusky kind of smoothness on the finish too. Yeah.
Mm.
The all around mouthfeel I'm liking a lot better than the other one, but that could just be the age. I mean, quite a few years older.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the first wine is a little more linear. So it's only coming from one vineyard. It's one cluster or one harvest of grapes. Whereas this one is a cuvee made up of 4 or 5 different parcels of grapes. So they're putting it together like a recipe and kind of like combining all the best attributes and qualities of all those different wines. So yeah, this one's going to definitely be more complex, and I think you can taste that.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think by itself, if I'm just drinking wine, I very much prefer this one. With the food, I think the other one shines a little bit brighter. But this is stunning. And I think I will definitely be buying this one.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to get the winemakers on with us tonight because I would have liked to talk to those guys about this one. That's a really nice wine. Both of them are very highly rated. I would say the first one probably could use a little bit more time to age, and it is only 5 years old. So Syrah and wines, red wines with higher alcohol levels like this can go for 10 years before they're kind of at their peak. So yeah, I would say that the first one probably needs a couple of years before it's at its best. This one is right in the window. I think it's a beautiful wine. What do you guys think? Anybody else want to weigh in on this one?
Mark, how did the Donelan people, they just caught wind that you were doing this tasting?
Yeah, I posted something on Instagram today, just saying to get ready for the tasting tonight, and they actually responded to it, and they said, "Enjoy. We really hope you enjoy the wine and let us know what you think." And
Oh, wow.
yeah, I had reached out to them and I said, "You guys want to get on tonight?" But it was too soon. At that point, it was only like 2 hours away. But with a little more planning ahead in the future, we'll get the winemakers on if you guys would like to talk to them. I think that could be kind of cool. Sarah and Jack, what did you guys think of the wines tonight? Did you have a favorite of the two?
Yeah, we expected to like the the one we're having now, the Donelan one more, but I think the Peake Ranch won us over. It's really good. I agree with John. Like, I think it's gonna be the better one with food. So yeah, we enjoyed both of them.
Yeah.
So you like the Peake Ranch, just on its own?
I think so. It's a tough call. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they're both
We're
great.
feeling
Yeah.
indecisive at the moment.
Cool. Where are you guys coming in from?
We're in the Niagara region in New York, so
Oh,
kind of close to Niagara Falls.
cool. So you still have sunlight, and you're actually outside, so it's fairly warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, relatively, when it hits like 40 here, we're like, it's warm.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's like 55 out here, but I have a patio heater going on right now, so it's tolerable. But wow, look at that. Can you see that sunset in the background? That's pretty cool. My backyard. It's about ready to fill in, so the leaves are kind of all bursting out now. So like in a week, you won't be able to see that sky behind me. All right. So anyone else? There are definitely differences. I'm looking here in the Justin. Not sure if 3 years of location. I'm not sure I catch wind of this conversation. Justin, if you
I
could
was just
explain.
wondering if the differences is the location or 3 years. Maybe 3 years, I guess. But
I would say both. And also because the other one, the Peake Ranch, is just from one vineyard, so it's a little more. What's the word?
single vineyard, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, singular. I guess we could use that word. Yeah, so it's not going to be as complex because it's only one batch of grapes that is going into the entire process, whereas the Donelan is multiple sources being blended together. So naturally, you're going to get something that's a little more complex. Did you have a preference, Justin?
Early on, it was definitely peaky. Now Donelan's growing on me, so maybe backwards from some of the other people.
Yeah.
But I didn't eat till we'd already kind of started. So yeah.
And
I'm
Justin,
kind of with Don. I think that the Peaky was better with food, but the Donelan was on its own, just fun, easy
We
drink.
agree. We like them both, but they're different.
Yeah.
The Peake really helped put out the fire on the pepper dinner. So
How much pepper did you put on this dinner?
We followed the recipe,
well,
which was a tablespoon of ground pepper.
I'm pretty sure he measured with his heart, and I was at work, so I cannot.
I started with a Peake and eating like some appetizers and stuff, some cheese and nuts and stuff.
Yeah.
And I picked up the Donelan not looking, watching the map you were showing, and it definitely caught me. I knew I had picked up a different glass. Yeah.
yeah, in a good way. Was it kind of like, wow?
It was wow. It was at first I was like, yeah, that date made that wine taste a lot different. And then I was like, oh, it was the other glass. So yeah.
Yeah, I always say wines are kind of like people in that respect. The Peaky Ranch, I think, is like the friend that's just fun to go out with and like have a stupid night out and like not think too much about it. And then the Donelan is the friend that you sit down with and you can have a deep conversation with. And the hours just go by and you don't know what time it is by the time you're done. Both good for different reasons. They have different applications and different contexts, but really wonderful wines. I love them both. If I had to choose, though, personally, I would say I'd like the Donelan. I think a little bit more there, a little more substance. Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben's kind of on the same uh, thinking same thinking there too.
I like
More
the
easy.
mouthfeel of the Donnelly. As time goes on, that buttery texture you talked about,
Mhm.
feeling that more, tasting that more.
Yeah. There's definitely like a silkiness to it, like a butteriness to it, like butter.
Hey, like we said last month, the Donelan's a little bit more of a porch pounder, gonna say.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to do the poll. We have to do the poll here, even though we kind of already did it. I just want to get the numbers. So, what was your favorite for tonight?
Such a small group, we can just raise our hands.
I know. Yeah, I don't know why I do these sometimes. It's just muscle memory, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty unanimous. Looks like the Donelan is the winner for the night,
Excuse me.
but I like them both for different reasons. So I'll leave it. Yeah. So that being said,
No, absolutely. I think both were very good, but I like the Donelan better. So I can't say I disliked either.
so for the people in the group here who, I know most of you are familiar with Syrah, but if anybody here in the group tonight, if this is kind of your first experience or this is relatively new to you, how do you feel about moving forward? Are you going to drink more Syrah in the future? Sarah and Jack, I'm picking on you because I don't see you guys or get the chance to talk to you too much. So I hope you don't mind. Are you guys, do you drink a lot of Syrah or no?
Yeah, we used to buy I think it's called Claridon. That they had a lot of Grenache on wines till sold out, but they have a 2011 Syrah that we've bought a lot of and love that. So
the Clarendon Hills, yeah.
Australian.
Yeah, Clarendon Hills, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one.
But this is really good.
Yeah, that 2011, man, that thing's like, that's getting really raisiny at this point, and like really, it's got a little bit of leather going on. But is that what you like about it? I guess.
Yeah, we really liked. I think it's also 2011, the Grenache, but that's sold out. But yeah, that was really the only Syrah I think we really got into.
Mm-hmm.
But these are great.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we could try something different today. And
Yeah, I want to add some to the cellar just to, because I've never had an old Syrah before, where I've had some really old cabs, and so I kind of want to see what this does with some time.
and like I said, I'm not really I'm not selling for WTSO, but if they have good stuff, I'm not gonna couch it. But that Clarendon Hills that they have is still available. That the one that Sarah and Jack are talking about. It's like a 2011, and I think it's like $45 or something like that. So it's still available. So if you want to get something direct from WTSO, I think they've got some older stuff that you can probably try. Yeah, cool. So moving forward, we talked about some possible topics and some possible wines to taste for the next group. So your opinion was that we kind of wanted to stay with like some reds. So we're kind of in cooler weather still. So, reds are still good. So we did the Syrah this time around. And some of you suggested maybe transitioning to Pinot for May, going a little lighter this time around. How do you guys feel about that?
Always love Pinot.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to weigh in? You're allowed to say no too. I mean, we're not gonna. You won't be castigated from the group. If you have another idea, I was thinking, eventually we'll move to whites. I don't know about rosés. I mean, if we have enough people who want rosés, we can even do rosés. But I'm kind of open to suggestion. And I was looking through the inventory at WTSO, and they have quite a few Pinots, even some French ones too. So I can put together a theme. I don't know if you guys want to go international. We could do France and some other countries in California or Washington or Oregon, excuse me. Or we can stay all in Oregon, all in California. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So, to me, it's like when you go to like Bordeaux versus domestic, that's a pretty stark difference. But, we were talking, or I was talking earlier off topic about Southern California versus, Napa Valley more or Sonoma County. So, when it comes to Pinots, it'd be interesting to taste Santa Rita Hills versus, Sonoma, Russian River. If we're doing cabs, it would be interesting to really, because everybody knows cabs, but to really drill down. Here's a classic Oakville. Here's a classic Rutherford. And, different sub regions within Napa that are like if you're tasting a cab, you would automatically, because of the education we get with you, understand better. Like when I taste this, I'm tasting Oakville, I'm tasting Rutherford, I'm tasting
Right.
Yeah,
Washington
you're
State.
talking like 100% cabs too, because they're
Yeah,
completely different than the ones with the Merlot in them.
right.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys are interested in like tasting regional differences and like really what makes them specific and what makes them unique.
I mean, I think if we were a early consumer of wine, this would be a worthless conversation. But I think most people on here, have been around the block a few times and, have a little bit higher of a level of understanding of wine. So to really drill down maybe would be an interesting concept.
We've
Okay.
had a few bottles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just
So-
tonight.
How does the rest of the group feel about that? You guys would you like to do like deep dives into like specific
Yes.
regions or sub-regions to see the difference in
That sounds
flavors?
interesting. The whole terroir thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
because a lot of
So to dovetail on what John was saying, with the Pinot, you could do the two different California ones, but also compare that to Oregon, since it seems like as the climate gets warmer, having more of a true colder climate, Pinot would be good.
okay, cool. Yeah, I know
100%.
looking at the inventory that they sent to me the other day, there were one or two burgundies. There was a Santenay, which is really beautiful. I love Santenay, which is a burgundy. And then they had a couple of Russian River Valley. I don't know if I saw any Santa Rita Hills, and I know for sure that they have Oregon. So another question, I guess, is do you guys like the tastings where we do two, or do you like the 3 bottle tastings better?
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Depends.
We're
Depends.
all talented, but 2 bottles is probably the most I can do in a work night.
But you gotta get one of these, Amy.
That's right.
Yeah, you
Yes,
guys got to get the Corbin.
we see it.
Yes. So it's a math problem essentially. I mean, you guys have shared with me before that you're okay with going a little bit over the $100 price point. I'd like to try to keep it around there, just in case anybody new wants to join us. I know it's kind of like a value proposition. So I know we can go a little bit above 100 as we did with this one here, but essentially you're going to get 2 50 or 2 $30 bottles, or you're going to get 3 $20 bottles is what it breaks down to, for the math. So yeah, you guys let me know what you would prefer. Either way, there are some good selections and some very highly rated wines we can get either way.
What is there? I'm not against trying something off the beaten path that most of us maybe not, like we had mentioned Hungary, which is just because I've never tried it before.
Yeah.
But something I go back to that
South Africa.
that South African, was that a Pinot Noir?
Mhm.
It was the weirdest Pinot Noir I've ever tried, and I bought more of it because it was so weird.
Yeah, I
But
believe it was the copper pot that you're referring to, right?
yeah. And yeah, but just to try something unusual and something different, because I mean, half the reason of doing this is kind of forced me to try other things too.
Okay, so here's the rub. WTSO usually only covers, like, they have like 5 regions that they sell wines from. It's mostly France, Italy, Spain, California, Washington, and Oregon. So if you want something different, I've done my research, and we would have to go through a different vendor if you guys are okay with that. And the issue there, or the challenge there, is that the other vendors charge for shipping. Yes. So WTSO is very rare, and one of the reasons why I still work with them is because over $60 they give you free shipping, which is very rare. I don't know what kind of deal they struck with the devil in order to be able to do that. But if we go through other vendors, I can get wines from Hungary. I can get wines from Romania. I can get wines from Poland. I can get them from almost anywhere in the world, but we're going to be paying about $20, $25 shipping if you guys are okay with that, which is going to bump the price point up.
I think for a
one-time thing. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone else, but for one-time thing to try a region that we've never tried before, I think that would be worth it. Or even just a great,
cheaper than
an
an
off-the-wall
airplane
great.
ticket. It's a lot cheaper than airfare.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And I don't have to take off time from work.
How does everybody else feel about that?
Some of us might be. I mean, it's kind of lingered on me, but I'm a stewardship free shipping guy at wine.com.
So are we.
Yeah, so are we.
I'd say
We are
several of
too.
them probably are. That's
Oh,
free
really?
shipping.
Yeah.
So once a year payment, and you get some exclusive and free shipping on everything, right, Terry?
Yeah. Everything.
Everything doesn't matter.
Wine Library used to do the same thing. I'm not sure if they still do.
Yeah,
Wine Library. Wine
custom
Library is a little bit of a
library.
challenge. Wine Library doesn't ship to all states.
Right.
That was one of the problems I had. But yes, I've done some extensive research. Yeah, if you guys have a wine.com, if you have a steward shipping account, I looked into that, but I didn't want to obligate or force anybody to have to sign up. I think it's $65 a year, but I think they give you a $10 discount. It's a $55 a year for the stewardship.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right, Justin?
Remember?
I think so.
There's always a
interesting
deal.
too, They try to do like some virtual tastings. I haven't done any of them, but the ones that they
Do
have
they
listed
have
right
a
now,
referral program we can give you points for referring us?
I don't know. But their virtual tastings and stuff they had like Bon Jovi had a interest in a winery or something, but the ones that are listed on there have been the same ones for like the last 3 years. So yeah,
Yeah,
somehow, yeah.
I actually contacted them to see if they would be willing to do some stuff together, but yeah, they're not responsive. Yeah, I don't know if it's the
How are they
economy.
with
Huge
states though? Because
selection,
some
but
states are just a pain in the neck. I mean, are they okay? Like New Jersey's tough in
Yeah,
terms of.
wine.com seemed to ship to like, probably the same. I think WTSO reaches like 45 and there's like 5 that they can't ship to. Um, there's some strange ones in there. I think Arkansas is in there for some reason. Some of the southern states don't ship. So yeah, I think wine.com had a pretty decent reach. And the thing that I like about them a lot is that they have almost every region in the world. So if you guys want to do some interesting stuff, we can do some interesting stuff with wine.com.
I have noticed with wine.com, like the only like some wines are available to some regions, but not
Yes.
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
TSO, you have to put where you're shipping to, right?
you
So
do, but
it's
they cover most states. Whereas with wine.com, what I found was, you can, if you put your address in or your state, some of the wines are not available. So what happens if I pick 2 or 3 wines and like one of them isn't available in your state?
yeah. I'm pretty close I'm Kansas and Missouri on the state line, but I live on Missouri. You can get all kinds of things, but Kansas not so much. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's all food for thought. So what do you think for the next one? Should we stick with WTSO and do Pinot Noir? Or do you guys want to
Sure,
try?
sure.
And yeah, give me a month to figure out the logistics of trying a different region with
Yeah,
wine.com.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I know Rob, you were talking about, as far as Pinot Noir is concerned, single vineyard, like if they were available. Like you said, you had some interest in that too.
Those are all they're my favorites when it comes to Pinot Noirs is single vineyards. Just, I mean, to me, that it's the one grape that picks up the terroir more than any other. So it's fun to try the individual vineyards even within the same winery.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think a
What
food
state are
stick
y'all in?
just became available today.
Rob,
What's
YouTube.
that?
what state are you in?
What state?
Yeah.
We're in New Jersey.
Ah, gotcha. We're in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
We're exploring. There's limited Pinot Noir in Virginia, but we have found several wineries that are at high elevation that are growing Pinot Noir, and they're getting awards in Virginia for their Pinot Noir.
New Jersey doesn't have any wine.
No, we
We
some people think we do.
Yeah, it's Welch's grape juice with alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have like
Virginia,
Renault, which
Virginia
is
will
like
introduce you.
Amy. There's do you guys get out to Loudoun County at all?
Not lately. It's kind of peoply.
Yeah, yeah. Loudoun County is close to DC, and it's where all the people who work in DC have their wealthy, very
Yes.
wealthy region. But they
Lots
have
of
a lot.
horses.
Yeah, it's horse and hunt capital. But
Yes.
they have quite a few wineries there, and one of them, Green Hill, has a French winemaker. They make an excellent Pinot Noir.
So check out when you get a time, check out Amherst County because that's where we're retiring.
Okay.
And there are 2 wineries within 30 minutes of our retirement home that are growing Pinot Noir, which is probably one of the reasons we bought that place.
Oh, cool.
So
you're going to be,
yeah.
you want to be near the Pinot.
Yeah, 100%. And on the side of a mountain. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, we're going to go with Pinot for next month, and I'll try to see if I can find some single vineyard, or if I can't do those, contrasting regions, so we can taste the differences in region. And we're okay with either 2 or 3 bottles as long as they're within reason. This is my takeaway. I'm eventually thinking about doing different dates for different time zones, because right now I don't think we have any West Coast people on. It's a little bit of a hard time for people on the West Coast to start. So I may start adding a second date to these tastings, like on the weekends. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like, is that, we've been so married to this third Thursday for years because of the WTSO stuff, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's great for everybody. So I know it's good for you guys, and I know you're used to it. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, how to get more people into these tastings. I think there's a
We're
barrier.
flexible, and since I'm still working, a weekend would be great.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any opinions on a weekend tasting?
We're
No,
just
if-
more apt to have conflicts on a weekend, but
Yeah.
not saying we can't make it, but there's more apt to be a conflict.
If we had to choose between a Saturday or a Sunday, which one would be better for you guys?
Sunday.
Think so? Because
Probably
it's-
Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. I hope you don't mind all these questions. I'm just trying to kind of optimize everything here for the group. And
Hour later wouldn't bother me, but probably still wouldn't pick up West Coast.
yeah, you're probably
So
right.
small.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate your feedback, and also I appreciate sharing the time with you and drinking the wines too. Hope you enjoyed them all tonight. And yeah, I hope to see you as soon as I'm done here. My mind is going to be on the next one. I'm going to be picking out wines. I'm going to be putting the matrix of wines together, and I'll send you a link of when that's all available, when that's ready to go. And also, I'll send you a link for the recording for this too, in case you want to go back and watch us rambling on and on for 2 hours.
Is Michelle there?
She is. She's inside though.
Right, tell her we said hey.
Yeah. She's coming in from a long day too. She worked up until 7 o'clock, so she's probably having a glass of Chardonnay in there right now.
I surprised Brian. He was like, "Did you leave work early?" I said, "Hell yeah, I did."
Well, cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Mark,
Yeah.
one last question. How did you describe Syrah?
A man wearing a tuxedo with cowboy boots.
Tuxedo.
Is that John?
A tuxedo.
Yeah, he had to put his picture up for that.
Tuxedo with a cowboy hat? Is that what you said?
You got boots, John?
Show your boots,
I
John.
do.
All right. Next month, we're gonna expect you to be in your tuxedo, dude.
There you go, right there. I got you.
Yeah,
we
we
want
can't
to see
see.
your feet.
We can't see the boots.
You have to
Wanna see
pay
your
extra
feet?
for feet.
Listen, you don't want to see those things.
Good
All
night,
right, everybody.
guys.
Yeah,
Good
thank
night,
you.
guys.
Cheers. Good night.
Cheers.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
I'll see you. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next month.